A programmer just got banned from the Linux conference for wearing a MAGA hat 3 years ago. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, and today on 4chan.org as well as a few other sites. As I've said before, here on Politically Incorrect you can see Anon says, use MAGA hat 3 years ago, gets expelled Linux conference in 2019. MUSCOC. So here's a picture, and it's a picture of Charles Max Wood. This is the programmer who was banned from the Linux conference of 2019, all because he was wearing a Make America Great Again hat. Can you believe this nonsense? Linux has clearly been infiltrated by SJWs. So here Anon says, wasn't the Linux Foundation taken over unironically by a trans person who practices Satanism, who admits to being attracted to minors, and published an entire post-meritocratic manifesto denouncing quality of code as an important factor in favor of oppression labels. Holy moly, that sounds like something insane to unpack. Wow. Was Linux actually taken over? Here Anon replies, yes, using COC to infiltrate projects. Now, the COC is Code of Conduct, and it's been infecting the Linux community and the program community for a while. It's actually really bad. Anon replies, Jesus effing Christ. What has the world come to? Now you can't even distract yourself from the clown world. It's everywhere. So here another Anon replies, yes, as a matter of fact, the trans person in question even stated his code of conduct was designed to cause trouble in order to take revenge on the overtly male Linux community for being male. So here you have a person who's a misandrist, who hates men, who is bigoted towards men, trying to destroy the community, and it looks like they're succeeding. They've long since succeeded. The code of conduct is ridiculous. This is why I never touched Linux, because it's being corrupted and I just can't trust it. So here Anon replies, reminder that the conservatives were right about the slippery slope. So here's an example. Here's Alien Young, an Asian woman who's applauding the Linux Foundation for canceling a white programmer. First of all, that is discrimination based on race. You should not discriminate against anyone. That includes if they are white. Okay, so here she says, great start. If you want to take it to the next level, give the revoked registration to a marginalized person in tech. In other words, someone who's really bad at their jobs and doesn't deserve it. More than happy to, the Linux Foundation replies. If you know of someone interested, let us know. Otherwise, open call to the first person who requests. Maybe I should request this. Maybe I should go to the foundation and pretend I know how to code. And you see, when you program the airplanes, you just need to write, if going to crash into another airplane, semicolon, don't. I have solved air traffic control. So here Anon complains that he moved to Linux to get away from Windows, but he can't even do that anymore. So here's a good example. Microsoft. Windows, for all of its problems, they're proud to support the government. They're proud to support ICE. Meanwhile, Linux has become completely corrupted. Here on the Linux webpage it says, 100% of the donation received goes toward funding diversity programs. So donations that are supposed to be for Linux are being appropriated to diversity programs. It is a cult. It is the cult of SJWs, of social justice, of regressive leftism. So here in the open letter to the Linux Foundation, we have them complaining that Charles Max Wood was canceled unfairly. I am writing you as a concerned member of the software development community, which this man has been serving for the last 50 years. He's wishing to talk about what happened. He says, I fear that something has gone terribly wrong with your organization, and that it will have deep repercussions within this industry that I cherished. So here he points out that 3 years ago, Max Wood had a tweet where he was wearing a MAGA hat, something perfectly acceptable, showing support to someone who's now a president. And this is what the Linux Foundation had to say in reply to this tweet. Hi all, we have reviewed social and videos and determined that event code of conduct was violated, and his registration to the event has been revoked. Our event should and will be a safe space. I thought Linux was about programming. I didn't know it was about leftism and about destroying conservatives and anyone who wears a MAGA hat. I had no idea that if you were a white male, you weren't allowed to come and speak. This was clearly a political attack. No, and this person's smart. They say as much. I find it highly problematic that the complaint and the decision were public. Indeed, I am surprised that the Linux Foundation would accept a publicly submitted code of conduct complaint. And Linux shouldn't have a code of conduct. It's ridiculous. It's supposed to be open source. Anyone can contribute. Instead, it's becoming a cult, taken over and subverted by these gosh darn leftists. And they do this to everything we love. The SCP Foundation was taken over by regressive leftists. These people are sick and need to be stopped. Remove a cancer that needs to be excised from society, from these organizations. It is a disease that needs to be cured by the doctors, by those who see what is right, who know what is true, and will not put up with this bullcrap any longer. I'm much more than surprised that LF would ever consider publicly responding to such a complaint. Indeed, it seems to me that the public complaint, and perhaps even the public response by LF, could be seen as a public harassment, which is explicitly prohibited by the LF Code of Conduct. So they're saying that the Code of Conduct is clearly full of crap, they're contradicting themselves, and it was clear that this was a political move. Someone was trying to harm Charles Max Wood simply because he was a Trump supporter. And this was 3 years ago. Things have gotten really messed up. So here are the following questions they pose. This was clearly political in nature and intended to cause harm to Mr. Wood. How can the LF use the Code of Conduct as reason when they're violating their own Code of Conduct? Why was it public? How are they able to justify that Mr. Wood violated the Code of Conduct? Do they have a documented process? Do they consider political affiliation? Do they publicly denounce registrants? And so on and so forth. Let's just finish off. They say that some form of reparation be provided to Mr. Wood for the public harm that was done to him by the careless and unprofessional behavior of the Linux Foundation. Now, I wish it were that simple. I wish these people would listen to reason. What they need to do to help this man is remove the disease, excise the cancer, remove the blithering idiots who have infiltrated your industry before they destroy it. So here Annan replies, in response to the safe spaces comment, safe space just straight up means no Republicans now then. Yep, that's what it means to the leftists, to the SJWs, to those insane monsters. And just look at the cucks who talk here. Jerome Hardaway says, not attacking, but this is why I asked you to not get involved. As a minority, you were just the wrong person to try to start the conversation. Charles Maxwood replies, I would like to see the conversation happen. Who is the right person and where are they? Richard Schneeman says, Sarah May already gave you the perfect advice. You just won't take it. Instead of talking, listen. Follow diverse people and listen. Keep listening. When you're about to interject, stop and instead listen. I support the Linux Foundation here. What a cuck, little soy boy, pathetic little worm. I bet your wife's son bangs your wife in front of you. Here Annan says, imagine being an adult male and saying something like this. The left has infantilized themselves. Yeah, they act like babies. Thomas says, oh, poor little snowflakes, don't cry. Those pesky fifis of anger you have are actually remorse for not working on yourself and not being an insufferable asshole. Projecting. It's called a Freudian slip. Yeah, the left always projects. So apparently this is the person in question who has infiltrated Linux with a code of conduct. Here's what she says. Code and Witchcraft with Caroline 8A, whatever that is. Here she says, Caroline, code of conduct is about creation and transformation, and that's what magic is about. And my data model is based on the Kabbalah. That's like a Jewish cult or something. It's like really weird. The ancient Jewish mystic tradition. So this is the person in... They're insane. I mean, I think it's obvious. They're insane. Code has nothing to do with magic. Code is pure logic. This person is destroying Linux from the inside. Okay, so here's her Twitter and here's some screen caps. Code Witch, Ruby Hero, Speaker Writer, Podcasteress, blah, blah, blah. Meritocracy is the dystopian delusion. It needs to be rooted out wherever it takes hold. Leftism is a dystopian delusion. It needs to be rooted out whenever it takes hold. Meritocracy is merit-based. It's when you hire someone who's best for the job. She says that hiring the best person for the job is dystopian, insane SJW, delusional, moronic. Meritocracy allows bad actors to dominate and gatekeep open source. No, it allows the best people to do the job. But you're a moron. Imagine believing that meritocracy is late-stage patriarchy. This person is insane. Insane. Never let these kind of people into your industry. Ever. They're crazy. So here someone asks if Linus is cucked towards this issue. He's mega cucked. It's very sad. Linus is a cuck. Linus is an insufferable pussy. His own daughter cucked him into adopting some bullshit code of conduct. Very sad. What a cuck. I mean, honestly, what a loser. You can never allow the disease to take root. You can never allow these people to take over. Annan says, so what culture war are we winning exactly? Because in 4 years, they're still in control, and they've gained even more power and influence. Another Annan says, tech conferences have been compromised for at least half a decade now. Donaldgate and Strange Loop Mold Bug should have been a warning. I no longer go to conferences. All the talks are online, usually for free, and the networking that used to be the big reason for going is no longer valuable given the type of people who make up the crowd now. Stop attending tech conferences. Stop giving talks at tech conferences. Forget they exist. Let them turn into DashCon. I feel like, I consider myself of average intelligence. I think I'm average as a person. I think I'm average. But when I look upon these miscreants, I can't help but think, these are lesser beings. It's hard to describe the feeling you get when you see such stupidity. It's idiocracy. But you know what? I'm really angry. That pretty much sums up the story. There we go. Some guy was canceled because he was wearing a MAGA hat, and Linux is infected. But that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think about this story? I'm honest. I gotta be honest, it bummed me out. Like I said, the disease needs to be cured. Like a cancer, it needs to be removed. Because these people will destroy everything. That's what they want, destruction. They're delusional morons who live in some fantasy alternate reality, and they will go down in history as the villains. Now, if you want to support the videos that I create, you can do so by joining me on Patreon or Subscribestar. For as low as $1, you can choose whatever you want to. If you do join, you get access to Fight Club, a private Discord server. There's PayPal, there's Bitcoin. Check the description for all of these links. You can follow me on other social media websites as well, BitChute, Twitter, and sharing the video helps a lot. A special thanks to everyone who shares my videos. As always, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.